that God planted in you when the day He was born. Only He can fill it. He is the key to that heart. And you will die with a hole in your heart if you don't ever accept Him. You will die no matter what you have, unsatisfied, because you'll never experience a full heart until He comes in. But our lesson this morning is grafted into the promise. Some people know what grafted is, some people don't. But I'll give you the definition of a graft. And it's a shoot or a bud of one plant that is inserted into or joined to the stem, branch, or root of another plant, so that the two grow together as a single plant used to strengthen or repair plants. So this is a continuation of Zach's lesson of last week. And it says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is coming to the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy. And it's, with I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? He's more or less telling them, have they fallen so far that they're completely out of God's program? And Paul says, God forbid. When Jesus died on that cross, they sent Him there as the Jews. They denied Him. So with them denying Jesus, the salvation came unto us to have that salvation. So that if we believed and had the faith that we can take what was their reward. And then as Gentiles, here you have, in this day and time, Paul's going to Rome and he's writing this letter to Rome that the Jews has denied. And I am taking this message to you as being Gentiles. And even after Jesus has, been dead and arisen and ascended to heaven, they're preaching the gospel, but the Jews are still not accepting it, but just a few. And so this reward, this promise of salvation is now going to the Gentiles. And he says that to provoke them to jealousy, so that when the Jews do see Gentiles being blessed and being rewarded and living in the Spirit of God through Jesus Christ, knowing that this is the doctrine that is being preached, and us as Jews has denied Him, that we refuse it as Him being the Messiah, and they are taking Him as He is, that He was the Messiah, and that He died and rose from the grave and ascended into heaven, that they'd be jealous, that they think they're being rewarded. So maybe that this faith that they are proclaiming, there's something to it. Because why would God bless it?
Right.
And we are in the same position as we were. He says, now if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? No matter what, the Jews is the apple of God's eye. They are His chosen people. And Paul is stating here that if the Jews is God's chosen people, and you take the Gentiles, which is getting what the riches that the Jews were supposed to get, if they had accepted, he said, when you bring these two people together, how great or how big of a revival could that be when the Jews acknowledge that Jesus was the Messiah, and the Gentiles who know that He is and you bring them together as one. How great will that be? He said, how much more of their fullness? How full could that be when God can look down and not see Jews, which is his chosen people, and then the Gentiles, which is chosen by grafting in the doctrine, but can look at both of them as one. He said, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. Paul publicly is coming out and say that this is my title. God has told me that I am to preach the gospel to the Gentiles. That he spread the word to the Jews. They didn't accept it. And he's been ordained to spread this good news to the Gentiles. He said, by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. That no matter what he's trying to do, that it's just not the Gentiles he's trying to save, but he wants to save them all, in hopes that he could show a Jew or convert a Jew to believe that Jesus was the Messiah. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? He's stating here that with them being cast away, some say that it was a divine plan that God knew that, or had the Jews deny him so that they would crucify him, so that in turn he could be the sacrifice for them and the Gentiles. Amen. Because the Gentiles wasn't the chosen people. That this was part of a greater plan. Yeah. And some think, well, why would you do that? Why would God say, do that to your own people, the chosen people, and you're sitting there and then letting them kill your son? I think God is looking at the bigger picture. The Jews are his chosen people. But from the time the Jews ever existed, they've always turned their back on God. And he's always judged them. And just like we're all judged according to our works and how we do and how we act. So he used their disobedience to make his son that sacrifice. And that in turn expanded not just the Jews, but then expanded the world.
You're right.
That in God's own plan, he just didn't want just Jews. He wants the world.
Amen.
He wants everybody to be that grafted in.
Yep.
And it says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. So if everything is good from the bottom to the top, then it's good. The first fruit is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The ones that was the very first.
You're right, Toby.
They are the first fruit of this tree. Now we have the tree that is in this parable. It's not, this tree represents Israel. It's not the church. This tree is Israel. And Paul is trying to describe that the first fruit, which is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were holy. Even the Jews, they are holy. The Jews wanted their justification or their salvation through their works, that they are, and through the law. He said the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. But in this tree, if this tree is Israel, some of the branches have been broken off. The branches the parts of the tree that didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, God broke them off. The Gentiles, now they are being grafted in. Which, when we talk about grafting, we're talking about, if you understand the process, you have a tree. You take that tree, you cut it at, like, say, a 45-degree angle, and you take another tree, another fruit trees, and you cut it, you mend it together, you tie it, and as a small sapling, you let that branch grow together. And as it gets older, that branch will bear the fruit of that other tree. And you can have one tree that can bear 5 fruit if you graft. And this is what God is doing. He's taking the tree of Israel and he's cutting off what doesn't believe, and he's grafting the Gentiles into this tree. So that no matter what, no matter who you are, what color you are, or where you came from, as a Christian, you are grafted into the tree of Israel.
Right.
You have the same rewards, you have the same promises that Israel has, that God bestowed on us thousands of years ago.
Right, Toby.
That we are not separated. We are not this country, we are not from over here, but we are from that same tree. Same promises, that we get the same love that God gives the people, that it's the apple of his eye. He said, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, which was us, were grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root and the fatness of the olive tree.
Amen.
Boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now he said, even though, see, as a church, the church when he was writing, when he was writing to Rome, there were very few Jews. So then you had all these Romans that were outnumbering the Jews. So then he was thinking, don't you be boastful. Don't you take it among you, say, well, we are the chosen one now, and you are not. He said, don't be pride. Don't have pride in your heart.
That's right.
Don't be the boastful one.
Amen.
Because he loves them just as much as he loves you. Paul told him not to boast against the other branches, which is the Jewish Christians, because the Jewish roots of their faith supported them. He said, you're partaking of their faith. These were the people that I loved first. So you're partaking of their benefits. You're taking their tradition. You're taking what was supposed to be given to them, and you're partaking of it. So don't be prideful and say that it's just ours. It's theirs too.
Yeah.
Amen.
He said, thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. That's why they were broken off, it's because of unbelief. And that same unbelief breaks us off from the tree.
You're right, Toby.
That's why, this world is is the way it's in, because we have so much unbelief. If they would believe, they'd be grafted into this tree. And that tree makes it strong. But we're getting so much unbelief, and so many people disbelieve, that, you get outnumbered. He said, and thou standest by faith, be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spareth not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee.
Amen.
Say,
Yes.
say now, don't you get high-minded in yourself. Don't you get self-righteous, because it's not of you. You didn't buy it. You didn't trade for it. You didn't do nothing for this salvation. You were saved by grace through Jesus Christ.
Amen.
It was given to you.
You're right.
And it was given to my people that I love. And if I'll break them off, I'll break you off.
You're right.
If you unbelieve, I'll give you the same judgment as I did the people that I love.
You're right.
There wasn't going to be no favoritism with God. He says, "Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God. On them which fell, severity, but toward thee, goodness. If thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou also shalt be cut off. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again."
Amen. Yes.
There's going to be a day that God's going to graft the Jews back in. And we're probably getting into that age. We're getting to the point that the gospel is spread out through all the world. And he's grafted everybody he can into this tree.
You're right, Toby.
The Jews that didn't believe in Jesus being the Messiah, he's going to graft them back in. Why? Because he said it in this Bible that he would restore them to their rightful place. So with that, he's going to restore the Jews. And when this happens, it is going to be a fulfillment of the Bible. It's going to be magnificent to see God's church worldwide together in one accord. He said, "For if thou wert cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and wert grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much shall these which be the natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree?" He said, how great will the Jews be when they get grafted back into their own tree, where they're supposed to be. But you know the devil, and he'll fight and scrape and everything to not let the Jews be grafted back in.
You're right.
Eventually he'll have the world come against him. But today, with our lesson, it's all about the main concept of being grafted into the tree of Israel.
You're right, Toby.
Well, as we as Christians and non-Christians, as a non-Christian, you've been broken off. You're not part of the tree of salvation. But he's asking you and extending a welcome to you. If you believe and accept him by faith, that he would graft you into this tree.
You're right.
And that you would benefit of the strength and the fatness of the root.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we
This, being a church under God, you gain so much more.
Oh, yeah.
As an unbeliever, as a sinner, you go out and you run into trouble and tribulations. You don't have nobody to call on, especially when man can't help you. Mm-hmm. But as you've seen today, we have people that comes up and ask the church to pray for them. That gives them numbers, that gives them strength, that gives them hope. Because why? We're all grafted into this same tree.
Amen.
We've got the fatty of the root of God. And the trunk extends up. And we're the branches of that. And we're grafted in. And we make all these other branches, when we're grafted in, we make each other stronger. We make that tree bigger and stronger to withstand storms that will rage against us. Because we're as one. And that's the way he made it. And he wants you, as a sinner, as an unbeliever, he wants to be able, as the great pruner himself, to take your branch and graft you to the tree of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
He wants you to make and you think, well, I don't have nothing to give. You have everything to give, because you're going to make the tree stronger.
Amen.
Because we need you and you need us. We need each other. We need the love, the compassion
Oh, yeah.
that God can give us, and only He can give us. Because, like He told us, He said, I will cut you off, whether you be the apple of my eye or whether you be a Gentile. If you don't believe, you're cut off. But He's asking today, you're asking today, and He's asking you, do you want in? Because I'll graft you right back in.
Amen.
Thank you.